Happy Saturday, my friends. It's me, Peter. Now, as many of you know, I'm very open about the fact that I'm not that emotional of a person. I have never cried in sadness from a movie, I have never cried at a TV show, and I have never cried while listening to a song. However, even though I have never cried while listening to songs, there are a few that have come dangerously close to making me tear up and start bawling my eyes out. And I'm sure some of you may be asking, Peter, what are some of those songs that almost make you tear up? So that's why for today's video, I decided to share with you some of the saddest songs that I know. Now, because I'm going to be talking about sad songs, and I don't know how well most of you can control your emotions, I do have a box of tissues here for anyone who needs it. It'll be just right off here to the side. Let's jump right into it and start talking about my top 10 saddest songs. Number 10. Cherish by Kool and the Gang. Now, when most people think about Kool and the Gang, they think of songs like Celebration and Jungle Boogie, songs that make you get up and dance and have a great time. They don't really think of songs that make you want to cry. The beginning of Cherish sounds like a good song, talking about taking a walk on the ocean shore, hand in hand, cherishing every moment that they've been given. But then the song kinda takes a very, very sad turn. Yeah, that line is the turning point of the song, where you realize we should cherish each other because we don't know when we might lose each other. And the sad thing about it is that that's very true. We should cherish the time we have with people because we don't know when life will end. And it's a beautiful song. I absolutely love this song. But that's just a little too emotional for me coming from a Kool and the Gang song. Number 9. God Only Knows by the Beach Boys. Once again, when you think of the Beach Boys, you think of poppy music that you can play on the beach and listen with your friends and have a good time with. Surf music, they used to call it back in the 60s. But there is one song by the Beach Boys that really drives home the feels, as people call them today, and that is God Only Knows. The song is meant to be a love song, but it basically talks about what would happen if the lover left the person. And although the singer seems to be okay about the person possibly leaving them, the lyrics seem to paint a different story. See, that's the line that sticks with me. So what good would living do me? That's kind of troubling because it implies to me that if they break up, this guy's gonna hurt himself in some way. And if that's truly the way the person singing the song feels, then I recommend you talk to somebody, because those are not feelings you should be feeling. Number 8. I Can't Make You Love Me by Bonnie Raitt. Romance can be a tough game, as many people, myself included, have learned. You may have feelings for someone, but they may not necessarily feel them back, and vice versa. Somebody may like you, but you may not like them back. It's all part of the vicious cycle where, let's be honest, you can't force yourself to love someone, and somebody can't force themselves to love you. That's the basic point of this Bonnie Raitt song, which I absolutely love. Interesting bit of trivia about this song. Bonnie Raitt recorded it in one take. In one interview, she said she didn't want the raw emotion of the song to be spoiled, which is why she only recorded it once. Number 7. If Ever You're in My Arms Again by Peabo Bryson. Sticking with the theme of romance, here's yet another breakup song about a couple that has fallen apart. As Peabo Bryson sings, they had a once-in-a-lifetime romance, but things happened, apparently the fault of the male singer, that caused the two to break up. And you could tell that he is feeling emotional in this song, because he just wants to get back together with her. But he still holds on to hope that it might happen, and if it does happen, he makes all these promises to his lover. And judging solely by the vocals, you can tell this breakup really had an impact on the singer. I don't know if Peabo Bryson was inspired by a true story to write this song, but you almost wonder if he was, given how raw the emotion sounds. Number 6. Luca by Suzanne Vega. When one first hears the song Luca, they may think it's just kind of a slow tune about a boy named Luca, which is honestly what it's about. It is a slow tune about a boy named Luca. But then you actually listen to the lyrics and find out it's more than just a song about a boy named Luca. In the song, Luca basically says if you hear any noises, Just ignore them. Don't ask me what it was because it was nothing. And then in the second part of the song, it gets really, really emotional. Number 5, Think of Laura by Christopher Cross. I don't know how many of my friends know who Christopher Cross is, but he is by far my favorite singer. I've been listening to Christopher Cross ever since I was a little kid, and his entire song library is something I'm a fan of. But Think of Laura takes the cake as his saddest song. The song talks about a woman named Laura who was taken away at a very young age, suddenly without any warning. And you know what makes the song truly sad? It's based on a true story. Christopher Cross's wife had a friend named Laura who was killed in a shooting. She wasn't the intended target, but she had been hit. While his wife was dealing with the emotions, Christopher Cross decided to write a song about the incident to help her cope with it. Number 4, Leader of the Band by Dan Fogelberg. A few months ago, I told you guys about another song by Dan Fogelberg, Same Old Lang Syne, that was the perfect mix of emotions and truth. The song was based on a true story about a friend of his that he bumped into one Christmas. Leader of the Band is another true story, this time about Dan Fogelberg's father. In the early 80s, Dan Fogelberg learned that his father was dying, so he decided to write a song about him. The song is basically a biography of his father, and about Dan's life growing up with his father. You can truly tell in the lyrics that Dan Fogelberg cares about his father. Number 3, Empty Garden by Elton John. When it comes to people who have lost a lot of friends in life, Elton John is someone who has had the lion's share of bad luck. He was friends with Princess Diana. He was friends with Gianni Versace. He was friends with Ryan White. Perhaps one of the most emotional losses for Elton John was when his very good friend John Lennon was killed in the early 80s. A couple years after John Lennon was killed, Elton John and Bernie Taupin penned the tune Empty Garden, Hey Hey Johnny, dedicated to the memory of his good friend. And now let me share with you a true story about this song that proves it's emotional. I have a very good friend who is a John Lennon fan, and I explained to her about this song. I shared the link with her, and after she listened to it, she said, "Yep, that made me cry." I kind of felt bad about that. Number 2, The Living Years by Mike and the Mechanics. I don't know whether this song was based on a true story or not, but that really doesn't take away any of the emotion. The song talks about a man who had a rough relationship with his father and who never really confronted him about their differences. As we learn later in the song, the father eventually died, and the son was left with regret because he never talked about his differences with his father. This song got so emotional, when it premiered on the BBC in the 80s, the host of the show broke down crying after the song because it reminded him of his own relationship with his father. And the number 1 saddest song I know, Tears in Heaven by Eric Clapton. As you may have guessed with my list, the saddest songs, in my opinion, are the ones that are based on things that actually happened. And in this case, it's probably the saddest thing that ever could have happened. In the early 90s, Eric Clapton was the proud father of a little boy named Connor, whom he loved with all of his heart. Well, one day, while Connor was inside Eric Clapton's home, he happened to climb onto a piece of furniture and fell out of a window, which led to his death. As one would expect, Eric Clapton was completely shattered by this, and didn't know how to cope with it. So like any good musician, he put his feelings into song, and created a masterpiece that I believe is Eric Clapton's best piece of work to this day. With this song, you can clearly hear the emotion Eric Clapton is feeling. It sounds like he is trying so hard not to cry during the recording of this song. And, truth be told, I'm sure he was trying his hardest not to. It's an emotional song talking about the loss of a child. There you have it, friends. My top 10 saddest songs that I know. Hope it didn't leave you guys too emotionally drained. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, and be sure to click that subscribe button down below to see future videos from me. Thanks for watching, my friends, and I will see you later.